Hi, everyone. Is everybody ready to paint the Irish cottage tonight? I am. I hope you guys are too. So I want to have you share in the comments. I have the computer, as you can see, a little dual screen thing going on here. And I have, just wanted to get rid of that echo, sorry. So I can't really see who's joining. I can see how many are joining, but please say hello in the comments and let me know that you're here and where you're watching from. Let me know how the audio is. It's a new platform I'm trying tonight to get over the glitches we had last time. So just kind of communicate with me. Let me know where you are in the painting as well. I went live a little while ago and showed you a quick tutorial of tracing on your pattern. And so let me know if you have your pattern traced on. And if not, I can guide you through sketching it too. So just let me know. Hey, Patricia, you know Hudson's my hometown, so that's where I grew up. And it's got a special place in my heart. And I was just there over to Kith and Kin this weekend. So Northwest Arkansas. Hi, Dawn. What's your weather like there? We're here in Central Mass, and we are having a little warm spell, which is fabulous. In Pennsylvania. Hi, Dawn. Oh, good. Sound is good because it's echoey on my end, but as long as you guys can hear it okay. I'm going to show you my paint setup here. You can really get away with just your primary colors. Oh, you made it. Yay. Hi, Jody. And you got your cottage traced out. Yippee. Never panic because I will take the time during the paint class to get you going if need be too. It's Karen right now. I'm in Florida. Hi, Karen. Thanks for the bits. Oh, Karen, hi. Yes, I was told to have you play the tin whistle for us tonight, but I'm not sure how I can do that where it's not like a Zoom call, but I'm so excited that you guys liked your box. Thank you. Hi, Jan. I'm in Clinton now. Where are you? You're a couple towns away, so you're nearby. Hi, Donna. Thank you guys for popping in and saying hello, because that way I know someone's out there. So about the paints, primaries really do the trick. I have some extra colors on here, but you can certainly mix them up with your primary colors. I have a really dark green here. It's a phthalo green. I like it a lot because I can blend it with the yellows and the blues and get some really cool colors with it. I have a yellow, just a primary yellow. I have a gold. It's kind of like a yellow ochre, although we can certainly mix that with some yellow, white, and a little brown. If you don't have it, white, black, basics. I have a phthalo blue, which is that dark blue I love. And then I also have an ultramarine. I like the sky in this, in the mountains are a little more purpley. So I've got that. I've got a burnt sienna, kind of a brown, just a regular primary red. Orange, you don't need. We could certainly easily mix with the red and the yellow. So these are the colors I'm going to work with tonight. You don't have to have the exact colors. You can use whatever you might have, and we'll work with it. If you have any issues as you're going along, comment and I'll guide you through mixing. In Lancaster, oh yeah, you are my neighbor. Absolutely, I could walk to Lancaster. I'm right on the line by the hospital. So yeah, cool. I'm so glad you're watching. All right, so if you, just to go over paints real quick, just so you know, I use acrylics. You can use the heavy body paints. These are not the heavy body paints. These are just the little craft paints tonight. I use a combination. I do like the heavy body with some landscape painting, but not necessary. I do not worry about brand. I buy what I can find. I have some in the little larger bottles, Craft Smart. I do love the Americana. I do get big bottles from Blick and the quarts and the half gallons. So it really is an acrylic-based paint, water-based paint, and you can use any kind you might have. I have the brushes, which I'll kind of show you as we go along. I think I put a little blurb on the supply list about them. I use a paper plate for my palette, nothing crazy. Paper cups, plastic cups for my brushes, for my water. Sometimes we use some Sharpies and some paint markers. Hey, Pat and Beth. Hi, how are you guys? Glad that you're joining me. I was over to Lancaster Gardens, Pat, not too long ago. I don't have a green thumb, but I'm trying, so. Hi, Jean from Virginia. Hi, Diane. Sarah from Canada. Nice. Oh, Michelle, I want to be painting in Barbados too. I'm a big plein air painter and I would love to be out there painting. As a matter of fact, I'm going out tomorrow though. I am going to get outside in the fresh air tomorrow. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to jump in and get started. Tell me if I'm going too fast. Tell me if I'm going too slow. I want to keep pace with everyone. So it's a great way. I love this new format because I can see right here what you're saying, and I'll keep an eye on it. When I do my landscape paintings, I usually start from the background and move forward. Matter of fact, regardless of what I'm painting, that's pretty much how I would always paint. We're going to do the sky first. We're going to go right into the mountains, right into the grass. We'll do the cottage and the little sheep last, and the little flowers in the front. Everybody's painting is going to be different. That's what's so cool about this. Don't worry about having it look like mine. It's your own creation, and that's what's fun about all of us painting together. Western Mass, Springfield. Hi, Marianne and Ruth from Puerto Rico. You guys are really painting in some cool spots. Okay, let's jump in and do the sky. I paint pretty quickly sometimes so that the acrylic paints will blend. Acrylic tends to dry a little quickly. Of course, never as quickly as we want when we're waiting for it to dry. I have my heat gun handy. But I want to really blend the paint, so I want to work with one color wet into the other. I do a lot of dry brushing. I always keep a paper towel in my hand, and I'm always drying my brush off. I use my dry brush to blend, and you'll see that. Acrylic paints, these guys especially, are a little transparent. They don't cover great. So that's okay. We're going to do a first coat, and sometimes it works and we can leave it like that, but don't fear if it looks streaky. We'll do a second coat and we'll keep building it up. I sort of start just covering the white of the canvas and then building up highlights and shadows as I go. It all comes together in the end. So have fun, enjoy the ride, and don't stress. It's really, it all comes out great. I will help you at the end if you need help touching anything up, so no worries. Okay, for my sky, sometimes I use this phthalo blue. I really like it. Like I said, I put a little of the ultramarine out today. When I'm doing a sky, I go into my blue. Same time I grab some white. I don't want a plain, ordinary blue sky. I want something that's going to have some lights and darks mixed in. Notice the kind of stroke I'm using. I'm not going back and forth like I'm painting a wall. It will look like you were painting a wall. I'm using little crisscross strokes. I paint on the stretched gallery wrapped canvases, which are cool. So I paint the edge as I go. If you know you're going to frame your painting, they are all masterpieces after all. You don't have to paint the edge. I do. I hang them up just like this. And oops, sorry, I hit my light. I just like the finished look it gives. So paint your edge. And you know what's great about painting the edge? Here you are looking at what color you're putting on the canvas. I say, don't worry, I just go into any of the blues and a little white and slap it on there. Then I say, oh, geez, it's a little dark, it's a little light. I can adjust it on the fly. I don't mind this, and for the edge, we don't really care. So we got that edge done, right? Now on the front, again, I go back, little X strokes, little circle strokes, something that's just not up and down or back and forth. And to make it interesting, sometimes go into just the blue, sometimes go into just the white. I'm not going to worry about the clouds yet. We'll put those in later. You see how fast I'm working? Because look at how the paint is blending when I work this fast. Hi, Kit. And I'd love to know if you're if you love painting. Are you a new painter? I'm not going to say old painter. I'm an old painter, or we'll just say painting for a long time. I actually took oil painting lessons when I was probably about 10 or something. Nowadays, you wouldn't be giving a kid oil paints. I absolutely loved it. My brother and I went downtown Hudson 100 years ago. There was a wallpaper and paint store, not an art supply store, wallpaper and paint. And the lady taught oil painting classes in the back. And my brother and I would go down with our little pictures from a magazine and paint. It was so much fun. I just love oil paints to this day. I love the smell of them. I love everything about them. Okay, this is a good place to start. I think my light is a little glary. Let's see. But I'm going to hold it up sometimes so you can see. It's nothing fancy. It's just covering the white for now. Let's let it dry a little bit. We'll go back in and start putting some clouds in. I put my clouds in steps. I want them really subtle to begin with. When it dries a little more, we'll get a little more highlight, and then it dries a little more and we'll get the highlights on, and maybe a little yellow. Sometimes a little yellow in your cloud adds a little sunshine and a little warmth. But you really don't want to do it while this blue is wet, because then you have green clouds. So we're very careful about on top of the white at the very end, adding a little glaze of gold or yellow. Because I'm going into a very similar color for the mountains, I don't need to wash my brush off. I only wash off when I have to if I'm going into a lighter color. Sometimes I'll just put this in water, rinse it out, and grab a clean brush so that I'm not got a lot of water in my brush. So I'm just going to wipe it off. Very similar shade, the mountains. I'm going to use a little black in with it just to kind of tone it down and gray them down. They're off in the distance, off in the atmosphere. And they're a little purpley even, but I'm going to go with some of these dark blue here. Maybe take a little bit of red and just get kind of a purpley. Tiniest bit of black. I use black really sparingly in my paintings. You'll see I'll shade a lot of times with blue or dark purple. I don't really want to add black unless I really, really have to. So here I've got this nice dark color here. And I'm going to start dark. I start lots of things very dark and build up the light on top, and it really makes it pop in the end. So again, I do my edge, a great place to see how the color looks, if it's too light or too dark. And again, I don't really care because if it's too dark, I'm going to brush some light over it. And I like the way that looks more than mixing the color, the perfect shade, and painting it on. It looks a little bit like paint by numbers then. So now I'm just going to go, and then you can see I just jumped right onto the canvas here. It's very blue. I might like it a little more purple. So I'm just going to drag a little red in. You can be careful around your cottage here. Now, if you're more comfortable, feel free to take a littler brush or an even littler brush and outline. You don't really have to worry too much, though. As long as you leave your cottage alone for the most part, you can go with the color we're using after on top and straighten out any little lines. So I'm careful, but I don't make myself crazy. And can you see a little bit of blue and a little bit of red mixing? I know the paint's shiny, so it's a little hard to see that till it dries, but I'm just using red and the dark blue, a teeny, teeny, teeny bit of black. And I don't want to work too slowly here because I do want it to be wet when I go on and add some lights, but just give it a whirl. And how is everybody doing with their sky? It's pretty basic. Just block it in for now. Don't even worry. It can change. Hi, Rita, Kentucky. 8th grade. I know. I loved it too. Do you still paint in oils at all? I paint in oils when I'm plein air painting all the time. It gives me a little bit more time, drying time. And I just like the rich colors you can get. Okay, so that's a little more purpley on this side. That's what I want. I want it just to be different. And I'm not painting a super duper realistic sky painting here. I'm doing a little more whimsical painting, just in time for St. Patrick's Day, right? We'll paint this Irish scene. I'm going to move this over so you can see my palette too. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. I actually grabbed red by mistake, but that's all right. I'm going to blend it in. Okay. So I'm a little careful around the cottage, but not worrying too much. Okay. Now, I'm going to let that dry for one little second because my paint on my sky is drying. It's not completely dry, but I want to kind of catch it when it's a little bit wet, and I'll show you why. I'm going to just take another brush that's dry. I'm going to take my white, just a teeny bit. I don't want a big brush load of white. I'll get a big glob. I just want a little bit. And my clouds, I do clouds, and I'll show you on the painting here. I kind of do clouds a little bit of formula. I always have little bumps in the middle, and then I get bumpier down. That's probably real technical, right? And then I just lead them out. I want them to be softer on the bottom to blend back with the sky. And I don't want them to look like we painted on later and pasted them. So how I do that is I take just a little white, make that little half moon, and I just grab color as I need it. I'd rather do that than have too much. And can you see it's very soft and it's blending in with that paint in the background. It's almost like working with oils here. And what I did is I did this half circle, a few little ones, and then I wipe off my brush and I soften the bottom where it meets the background, and I sort of spread it out. This is just the first base coat. We're going to add more and more white till we get it to where we like it. Okay, I just had something on my screen there. So again, I'm going to do the same thing over here, a little half circle. But can you see why I wanted to do it? Not when the paint was too wet because it wouldn't show up. It's just a little tacky. And it's really blending by itself. I'm hardly doing any work. This paint is sort of just brushing it on, and it's just blending it by itself. Here is when you could put a little cloud peeking out up here. It's so subtle. You could leave it that subtle and just make some of them brighter. You can put in lights wherever you want them. So that's just a little second step for your clouds. And if you can kind of see there without too much glare. All right. I'm going to save that brush because I'm going to be going back and using that white for a little bit before I rinse it out. The mountains have not gotten to that tacky stage yet, but they're a little wet, but I'm going to play around with them anyways. Taking the same brush I have purple on, which we made ourselves with the blue and the red. Hey, Nikki. Nikki's a big painter with me. She's done amazing paintings, and she's a fabulous photographer, and she specializes in photographs from Ireland, and she has such great work. I'm glad you popped in, Nikki. Hi. I know, Rita, that's the thing. Isn't it nice to have some place to set up? I'm in my basement here now, which is okay because I can set up, but it's not a lovely studio with light and windows. It would be so nice. That's why I paint outdoors. All my kit's packed, and I don't need a place inside to set up. I paint so much better outdoors. I don't know why that is, but maybe try that sometime. You'd like that. And so I'm going to take a little bit of white, just like we did for the clouds, and I'm just going to go onto my mountains, and just kind of brush on. See, I'm still using those crazy strokes. I'm not using anything, I'm not following the shape of the mountain so much, just little bits of white, and just kind of going over them a little bit with no rhyme or reason, just making it a little more interesting to look at. I do want to leave some of the darks. And again, we can do a little bit more on there, but these guys are in the background. They're sort of fading away. We don't want to make them the focal point or the center of attention. I think I may even just dry my brush off now, and just so it's not such a crisp edge against that background, I'm just going to drag the brush across and just soften it just a little bit, because there'll be some atmosphere going on there. It's a little bit drying, but I'm softening it a little bit. Sometimes if you wanted to, you could almost soften the background right into the clouds and just have them barely there. Now here's the place where you're just going to look at it and say, what do I like? You might want to take a little more white and say you're doing someplace where it had more snow caps or something. You could add on as light as you want. I almost like a lighter background there because, again, it's almost blending a little more into the background. But I don't want to now blend that everywhere the same. I'm just going to leave it a little bit there. We could do something like this here on this one and have it kind of come down in front of that almost. So just kind of play around right now with your white very lightly on your purple. Just see what you like the look of. Everyone's is going to be different. And these are just some little techniques I'll show you. And you go ahead and do whatever you like because you are the boss of yourself. All right, so some mountains. You can come back if you want to and kind of finesse them a little bit. I'm taking my same brush I had a little white on. I don't like to leave brushes aside with paint on them, but these bristle brushes are pretty sturdy. They can take it. I'll wash them well afterwards. Be super careful, though, with your little synthetics because just setting them aside for those few minutes with paint in them will harden up in the ferrule, and you'll get kind of crazy hairdos, and they'll just be hard to get that paint out. So do rinse those guys off as often as you can. Okay, so I'm going to take, back to the white brush, a little bit of white like we did for the clouds again, just a little bit, take some off, and then you can kind of brush on where you want. I'm going to show you another little technique in a second, but just get a little bit of white on there where you might want it a little brighter. See, I'm still using those kind of strokes that are every which way. I tend to paint painterly. I like to see the brush strokes, and I sometimes, I'm blending a little bit, but I'm not going to blend them away so they're gone. Now, a little trick. Maybe more so when this dries, but I'll show you now, and then we can try it again after. My brush is dry. Taking some white paint on the corner, just on the corner of the brush. Pat it down. You don't want that much on there. Then with the paintbrush, the paint towards the top, I sort of just go along the edge, top edge. And what that's doing is giving me some nice white highlights, but where there's no paint here, it's again, blending by itself. Hi, Libby. Thank you for popping in. And when this is dry, you can even get more highlights if you want. You can kind of see on my original painting here, I have a lot more going on. I'm going to put a little more in once it's good and dry, and then we'll do those little tiny yellow bits. My background blue is pretty see-through and streaky looking. It very well could stay because I did those textured strokes, so it looks painterly. But if you'd like, you can always go back in with any size brush. I just grabbed this because I happen to have it, and mix up a bit of blue and white. Again, don't mix it perfectly. And you can go in now and darken some areas, lighten some, just to cover those streaks up if they bother you. They don't generally bother me, but I wanted to show you ways to make your painting your own, and this might be something you would like to do. Using those same brush strokes, even though it's a different brush, kind of blends it all, and it looks like it all kind of goes. You can kind of see the streaks there. So now that I started that, I'm going to finish it. And see how you can just put little bits of light and little bits of dark, and then just use the brush to blend. That's why I'm working rather quickly, so I can blend that. It would be impossible if it dried. And if it did dry, no worries. You just grab a little more of that paint, kind of re-wet the area, and then you can go right back on and do whatever you need to. I'm going to go back into that cloud after anyway. Down here, it's a little streaky too, so let's just touch that up. Okay. How are you doing on your skies and your mountains? I'd love to know if you're keeping up and if I'm going at a good pace. So just sort of throw in the comments if I am. Hi, Jean. Yes, of course, always. I will download this video when we're done. It'll live on the Facebook page, but it will also go to my YouTube channel. And if you follow me over on YouTube, Tinker's Cart Art, you will see classes that we've done, as well as anything in the future that we're doing. So it's nice to pop in and kind of watch what we're doing, but you do not have to paint along with us. You can watch this later, and at that point, you can stop and start it, and it's sometimes a little easier that way. So yeah, be confident that that's going to be there. And also follow me on the Facebook page, and you'll see when I pop in live. Lots of times I pop in live and just do a quick painting, and those videos stay up as well. This afternoon, I did the sheep painting. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but if you look up in the page, it's there. Quick little painting. The sheep are bigger. The little sheep in this painting are really little blobs, but you could, if you wanted to, add those sheep with the techniques we did today, right in the front, peeking over those flowers. That'd be adorable. Okay. All right. So that's that question. Now, I am going to clean my brushes off. I'll leave my white one for now because we're going to go back into those clouds in a second. But I'm going to clean, and I'm not going to use it again. I'm just going to clean off that purple and blue brush because I just want to not have the paint harden in it. But I don't like using a wet brush, so I'm going to go and get I have some dry ones right here. So I'm going to actually squeeze the water off of that one and just pull a different one to use for my grasses. So let me just show you this and give you an idea how we're going to move forward. There's a lot of yellow in that grass, some dark greens. Yours does not have to look this bright. You can do any shade you want. We're just going to work with different shades of green and some bright yellow. Why this looks interesting and pleasing is because you don't have all the same shade of green and all the same shade of green. I've got darks, lights, brights, interesting brush strokes. So it's not a matter of copying exactly and having, okay, it's dark along here, it's light here. It's pretty much just having it different. Think of a patchwork quilt. You're going to do little bits of darks and little bits of lights, and then we're going to blend them. And as long as you've got a variety of shades, you're good to go. You just don't want it to be just a flat monotone shade of green. Hi, Penny, came in. Yeah, you can watch the beginning and a rerun, and you could hop in and just start painting the grass now if you wanted to, or watch and then watch it later. So yeah, easy peasy. Okay, so I've got some whites I'm going to use. I'm going to use some of the greens mixed. I'm going to use some of that dark by itself and maybe a little black to get that real dark, a little blue, maybe a little black. So let me start just patching in the grass in the foreground, in the background here. And again, I work kind of quick to blend. We'll let it dry. We'll come back and do a second coat too. So let's start with just mixing a green. This yellow and green make a really pretty green. And I am going to kind of mix on the fly. It makes it more interesting instead of mixing like 5 piles of different shades of green. I'd rather just kind of do it as I go. Now that's very bright, but it is pretty bright in the back of my painting, but very yellow along here. So I'm just going to do a little green here. And I'm just really like a patchwork quilt. Okay, I'm going to put a little here. I'm going to put a little there. I will wrap it around the back later. So you can do that now as you go or not. And can you see how I went from a little bit middle shade green into very light? And then You can even take, I'm going to take a little, I want to get a little bit of a dark green too. Again, very, very tiny bit of black in with the blue and green. I don't want it to turn, I don't want any gray areas. I want to just get a dark shade here. And I do have kind of a dark shade along here. It's like a little path along here almost. I have it very dark in the front. And here I am going to add a tiny bit more black because I want it so dark back here that those red flowers are going to pop out. If we had something similar in tone to that red, even if it wasn't red, if it was a green around the same shade, those flowers are going to blend and I want them to pop. So right here, I know I said a little bit of black, but right here in the front, feel free to take your green. If you have a brighter green, that's okay. Mix a little bit of blue and maybe a little more black. Actually, you can make a nice earth green with just mixing black in your yellow too. So there's all different greens that we can make. But I do want it dark in the front where the little red poppies are going to go. I'm not going to worry about the edges too much because I don't want this paint to all dry. I kind of want to place it all on and then blend it. So there's that. This green by itself, you can see, is very blue-green. This mixed with some blue and a little white is an amazing ocean color. So that's kind of fun to play with, mixing colors another time. I'm going to get a little bit more of a middle green here. I'm just going to play with my blues and yellows and greens just so I can go on here and make different shades. I don't have anything as dark as a army green, but I have mostly brighter tones. And where I want some yellow, I'm going to almost leave some blank, and I'm going to go in there with yellow after. So this is kind of a good start here. Again, I'm just trying to get in a different variety by just adding different colors. This gold that I have here, that ochre color, you can see the difference that it would make when I add a little of that to my green. It's a duller, more army green because this has a lot of white pigment into it. So look, you get kind of a lighter, more army green. And just to show you, like just so there's a little black into your green, and look at, you get a real earthy green there. I don't have too much of it, but it isn't gonna hurt to throw some in. So here's where I like to use my a drier brush to blend, but I'm going to take a clean brush now just to pop in some of that yellow. Yellow is really, really translucent. So I'm going to put some in. I don't mind if it mixes with that green because it's just going to be a lighter shade. Sometimes if you have trouble with that yellow showing up, a teeny tad of white makes it a little more opaque. It gives you a little more coverage if you have a place where you're going on top of something especially. And we are going to lose some of the bright yellow when we blend, but we can always go back again. Like I said, I go back a few different times and bring that up on the base of the cottage. Let's give some yellow behind the cottage here. So can you see it's like a patchwork quilt? I've got all different shades of green. They're pretty much still wet. You know what, I think I would like to do it a little lighter around that back. So I'm going to just take some white and go across there. Okay, so I know it looks crazy. And I'm going to go back to my green brush, but I'm getting all the paint off so that I don't have to use another brush. I just want to use this to blend. When I'm using a dry brush to blend, I have my paper towel, of course. And as I pick up too much color, because I don't want it to smudge and all blend together, I just keep wiping my brush. So I will just go now. Maybe start in the light areas because my brush is sort of clean. And I'm just blending. And I'm just using any kind of a stroke you want. I just don't want to go back and forth. So I'm just kind of going to go like this. We're going to add the little brush strokes that look like grass afterwards. Right now, we just want to blend it a bit, but not over blend it so it's all the same shade. And I like those darks, and I'm not going to lose them, but I am going to blend them a little bit. And it's great with acrylic paint because you just go jump in and do it. And if you don't like it, you can always go back and add lights, add darks, change it, paint it completely over if you really don't like it. So you don't want to stress out. This is supposed to be fun and bringing you joy, and it's not worth stressing out about. So the more you enjoy the experience, the more your painting is going to show that. You're going to look at it. You can look at a painting and tell if it was joyful to paint or if it was difficult and tight and stressful. We don't want any more stress. We've got tons of stress in our life, right? So, okay. Let me know how you're doing, how your paintings are coming along. I know you're busy painting, but if you can, just every now and then, just let me know. I'm going to keep drying it off. It got a little muddy there, so I'm going to dry it off. Okay, so that's a pretty cool start. And we can even work into this more while it's wet. I have a lot of brush strokes, and you can see in the painting, see all this? I start from the back and work almost in little rows. The reason being, if we started here and went up, you're going to cut off each of your little grasses. Here, you've got them going naturally the way they grow. I always paint things the way they grow, and you'll see why when we get through that. You can use any sort of brush now. You can use your round brush, your square. I am going to now just grab some of my colors, lighter if I'm in a dark area, although I want to keep this dark, so I'll go with darks. And I'm going to just use a little paint, but put in some brush strokes. I have like a lighter yellow back here, so let me just go with a lighter yellow. And I always start at the bottom and work up when I'm doing something like this. That way you can get a little more pressure, it's a little wider, and that's the way grass would grow. You wouldn't see these individual grasses back there, but it adds some nice texture. So I do kind of do these little lines throughout the back. And again, I don't want to drag all the color together. So as I pick up too much paint, I sort of just grab and take some off. And there's so much wet paint right here. I'm not even having to apply paint. I'm just using what's on the canvas there. And I'm just kind of going little directions, little brush strokes. And now here's a cool thing. When you get down to this dark, you start doing that. You're going to bring the dark up. It's going to look a little like grass in the field. And as you get too much, just wipe it off. Using it on the chisel edge so I get that thin line. And I'm just going to blend it together using these strokes, and then we're going to let it dry a little bit, and we'll add some of the really lights. And if we need to add some more darks, we can, but you might not need to. Nikki, that's a great idea, and that's what I suggest to people. Watch it, chat, ask questions, hang out, and then go back. I do that for so many things. I'm in a lot of classes and things, and sometimes I'll just listen. Even in the car, if I'm not watching, I'm just listening. I'm listening, and a couple times later, things sink in and it makes sense. It takes a while. My brain does not comprehend everything quickly, so I like to kind of let it all settle and sink in. And you'll be able to watch this as many times as you need to. Nikki, you might have painted this with me, right? Have you painted this same Irish cottage? I think you might have. And what's great is you can paint this over and over and paint it different every time. You could paint any colors. You could put little cows instead of sheep. You could, it's so fun. It's just a base. It's just a base, the little tracing. It's just a base for you to start and use your own imagination. Paint is starting to dry, but can you see I'm still able to do this? That's why I work kind of fast. That's why I say jump right in, work a little fast. You can go back and fix it if you don't like it. But if you let this dry, you wouldn't be able to get all this blending in. So just no fear, just jump in. Okay. And down here, you hardly see it because we're going to have flowers on there. So I'm going to just and you know what? I've made all these little soldiers standing in a row here. It looks a little too much to me. So this is what I do. I just kind of critique it on my way. And so I'm leaving some, but I'm kind of smudging some. Okay, let's let that dry. Let's go back and just do the very last bits of our clouds. And then I can wash that white brush because it does bother me having paint sitting in my brush there. Okay, again, just that little technique with a little bit of white. Pull some off. And now I'm going to just get a little more. Now I'm going back with my little crazy strokes, but I'm using the bristly brush to still soften the bottom of those clouds. Think of it. If I had painted the bottom like the top, which you tend to do, you want to go, there's my cloud all circly, and it looks pasted on. So this way you're going to kind of let it almost sink into the background. And again, you can leave that little one that we had barely there like that, and you can just add what you want. Now's the time when we can add the teensy bit of yellow. Blue's dry, we're not going to get green. And you sometimes don't know till you put it on if it's going to show up. I would rather use the teensiest bit and not have it show up and add a little more than have like a big blob. So I'm taking just a little bit, taking white with just the tiniest little bit of yellow in with it, okay? This is not something you put a lot on. I might just do something as simple as this, and it's barely there, but it's just a little bit, and I know it's hard to see in that, but see that little bit of that little glow? It just gives a little glow, little sunshine. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush off now and clean that. Now I'm looking at this, and you know what's a cool thing? And I'm noticing it now. If you're doing a painting and you have a little bit of a, oh, I don't know what's wrong with it, I don't know what's going on. If you hold it up to a mirror, or in my case, I see it here on the video, it looks really dark to me. I want this dark, but up here I've lost my bright yellows, so I'm going to go in and put those in when it dries. But you can really hold it in front of the mirror, and you really will see like anything that you've made a mistake on sort of pops out at you. Okay, so the mountains, I think I went back onto mine and add just like a little smudge there. Mine are much more blue in the original. And I smudged a little bit of like a green, almost glazed it over. You can leave these if you like them, or if you like that little look, they're a different color underneath, but it's really, whatever green's in this brush, there's hardly any, almost that little army-ish color. And look at, I'm gonna wipe it off, most of it. And you can almost like scumble a little bit on. And if you don't like it, you can take it right off with a little wet paper towel. And it's looking a little dark to me there, so I'm gonna add a little white. I just want it to be a little more interesting. This is probably that's gonna be too mint green. I can tell right there. So I kind of just go back and forth and play with it. I've got the purpley that we used. That's a little dark, but I just want to have it a little more interesting than, it looks all too much the same color to me. So feel free to play around with things, add colors, even if they're not something I had. And like I said, they could have left it, it would have been fine, but I kind of just want to play around with it and add a little more interest. And I kind of like the way that green's kind of there. It kind of reminds me of the original one a little bit. Paint's a little watery here, and it's perfect for scumbling. And if I get it like, oh, that's a big, huge white mess, I don't need that much. Go back to your original color and just kind of go over it a little bit. Experiment and play around. This is how you discover things. All my greatest discoveries were mistakes, and we won't call them mistakes. We'll call them, what should we call them? They're interesting. They're experiments, and they're interesting. There, I like that better. It just gives it a little something, and I know it's glary there for you, but you'll see when it dries. Okay, let's let this dry a little bit. We'll work on our cottage. Our cottage is white, but I based the whole thing in kind of a gray blue, because then when it dries and we scumble on the white, it looks more like stucco. And again, everything I paint pretty much, I paint really dark. Even the ceramic pieces, if you've seen me paint the trees and whatnot, I paint them black to begin with. And then I slowly build up the color and then get a little bit of that black in the shadows, which is kind of nice. So it's sort of a technique I always use. Oh yeah, Nikki, you painted the one with the other sheep and the white dots. Oh yeah, I'll show that one actually. It's hanging behind me. I'll show that before we're done because it just shows you a little takeaway on a different way you might want to paint it. You can combine the two. You can combine them with the sheep we painted today too, even. I'm going to probably use just one of my flat synthetic brushes because I want to base the white part of the cottage in kind of a gray blue. And again, I don't go just gray. I don't go black and white, only because I want some color to show through. I want everything to have a little color. So I'm taking my white, a little blue, a little teeny bit of black, and I always need to add much more white. So it doesn't have to be any particular shade. That looks pretty good. And it could be a little lighter. It could be a little darker. Just depends on how many coats we'll put on after. And this is dry, so I won't get it all over my shirt because everything I own has paint on the cuff. So I am going to just do the side of my cottage first. Just don't worry about having to blend it too much. Just kind of fill it in with like a bluey gray. And I kind of lost my chimney there. So I'm going to go straight down here. Has everybody got their cottage traced on? Are they doing it from the tracing? I can never paint just right side up. I'm going to have to move this a little bit to get my line straight on that end. I think I kind of lost that line. So let's do that. Let's just do the side first and I'll show you why. That side first. It could be wonky too, don't worry, because it's an old Irish cottage. It could be a little crumbly and a little weird. And then I'm going to go and do the front with the same shade. I'm going to use a darker shade here, more blue. But for the little bits, I'm just going a tiny bit of black, some blue, get my gray back. And I know you might think, oh, why didn't you mix more up? You could have had it all ready and you wouldn't have to mix it on the fly, but I like the different shades I get. It makes it look more realistic. All right, so I'm going to just go and paint around my little window best I can. That's just going to be dark black anyway, so I can certainly reshape it. And just go around that doorway. Same thing here. Okay. I know this is a little bit on the dark side. I might go into just a little white. But again, I'm going to put the white on top of it, the stucco too, so no worries. Okay. So the actually this little inside bit of the chimney here is going to be a little bit lighter than the edge. So there's that. And maybe this. Okay. So if you can see, these little edges have a little shadow on them. And so that's why I've just left them. I'm going to use a little darker blue to go along there. So same mixture, but we're going to just go a little more blue, a little more black. And it's just this little, that little bit. And I'm using a little bit of a big brush. You can certainly use your small round brush. You know, it would be easy enough to do your little round one too. I just like the width of this, and it works for what I want it for. But and you can see I'm not being too particular. I want to get the white of the canvas covered, and you know, I'm not going to be too crazy all over the place, but I don't mind it just being a little off. So the same thing here, just down and down there. I need a little more paint on my brush. And this one came out much darker. Go over this a tiny bit. And it really is just placing everything for us. If you wanted to, while you have that dark on your brush, you could certainly paint in your little windows there. The door is going to be a little lighter, but there is a little shadow right here. And again, the little brush might be easier for you, but I just happen to have this in my hand, so I'm going with that. Okay. There. Let's let that dry a little bit. We're not going to worry about the door being underpainted because I like the streakiness. It looks like wood when we put that red brown in there. Now, we've got this dry here, so I'm going to hop on over and do a little bit on the greens. And I'm going to use this small brush here because it's just got a little green in it. I can just use some yellows and greens anyways. I'm going to start light, though. I'm going to start with the light colors and then work dark so that I don't have to keep rinsing my brush. I love this big yellow area that's going to be here. I'm pointing to the screen like you can see it. Okay, so yellow with some white this time because we want it light and bright. I've mixed it up, but I'm not going to use all that paint. I just want to, you know, dry some off and scumble. This little foreground here is pretty light in my sample. And so I'm going to just scumble a little of that light yellow. And when I go over it, when it's dry, I'll get it nice and bright. But can you see how I'm sort of using the same brush strokes? It's kind of up and down and scumbly on the edge just to get a little bit of yellow in there. I think I'm going to go back here with a little of the bright yellow too. It's a little white underpainting here, so look at how the yellow just really shows up now. Okay, and I think I made those little guys too pokey-uppy there, so I'm just going to go back right now with a little of that color that we used in the mountains and just touch that up because I don't like those. Although, it kind of looks just like trees in the background. Now that could work. Probably shouldn't have been so quick to fix it. Okay. So is anybody doing anything special for St. Patrick's Day? I know we aren't having parades and whatnot, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of an at-home celebration, right? I don't know if you guys lots of you know that I own an Irish import store, and that's my retail business, and this is my fun business. So this is a busy time for me. I got a store in the Worcester Public Market, and I have a website, which is tinkerscart.com. So if you're in need of any Patty's Day gear, I can hook you up. So I'm just kind of going in some different places. This is going to be a little different. I can never copy the same. You say, oh, mine doesn't look like yours. Well, mine doesn't even look like mine because they always are a little different. So I just want to get a little light. Just by seeing it on the screen over here, it looks a little dark to me. I'm just going to bring in some little lights using some, sometimes a scumbly stroke, sometimes the little grass strokes like we were using. This got a little bit light. So let's get this a little bit yellow. And now with this part is wet, you can always go in with a little bit more green and blend, and that will cover up some of the streaks. You have to be careful to keep that dark. I will probably even go a little bit darker there, so we'll see that in a minute. So I do love, again, that green mixed. You can get a nice bright green here, almost a lime green sometimes. I didn't mean to get that white in there, but let's see. I make a big mess with my palette. I put out too much paint. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't put out so much paint. But anyhow, okay, here we go. We get some greens. And we can start blending just little spots. When I'm doing a plein air painting and you can't get it exactly like you see. It's too much here. I see too much and you can't paint that detail. So I do a lot of this. I put in little patches of color and then I sort of just scumble the edges together. And then I move on and make it a little different. And when you step back, it's kind of cool. It kind of works. A lot of streaking up here. Let's go back up there with some green and just get rid of some of that. It's a back and forth. And you can see subtle differences in the shades, but that really is kind of what makes it. And then I might take some of that dark by itself, just blend it in right on the canvas, blending that green and the yellow. Add a little yellow under here. And let's go back and get that dark in again. A little blue and a little of that green again. Maybe the teensiest bit of black. And get back down here and just get it a little darker so I don't even see those light streaks. And then you'll see later how that really pops off. I'm going to stick to the bottom of the canvas. If I go too close up here, it's going to look like a big dark line. So you can see I'm just wetting it here and then scumbling it up so it's not a harsh line. It's just kind of smushing it in there. I don't want it that black where my path is. I want it more blue. It's really going to be the green and the blue there. Green beer, yes. I have at the store these little tiny tokens, not really tokens, but they're little tiny beer glasses of green beer. They're like resin and they're a little pocket token kind of. They've been very popular lately. Did I have somebody from Chicago? I can't remember. I'm wondering if they still are turning their river green this year. There. So I've got some little dots back in. I'm getting a little lighter here. I'm getting a little bit brighter. I'm going to put a little more on top of that after, but I kind of like this. I think this is working. And so because this just looks too striped to me here, a little yellow and a little green, I'm just going to mix it up by adding just a tiny bit of the dark. And again, it's a layering process, and I go back as many times as I think I need to get what I'm looking for. Just going into the different greens. I had a little more texture on mine up there. I had a little brighter green here popping up into these little, oops, get these little hairs coming off the brush. How's everybody doing on their grasses? Doing okay? You could very well just paint this all green, but isn't it more interesting to have some lights and darks in the texture of the brush strokes? Is kind of cool. There's another green we're introducing here. And it just comes up different every time because I'm just mixing different amounts of the lights and the darks. I do have some little grasses coming up over the cottage after, which we'll get once the white is on there. And I'm just going to do a little more, and then we're going to hop on over and do some more on the cottage. It's kind of fun to play with your paints and see how many different shades of green you can come up with. Okay, I want to wipe the green off because I want to get into some more of that yellow, and I don't want it to be too greeny. Now, can you see I'm taking the bright yellow here, mixing it with the green I just did, and you're getting a third shade, maybe almost right there, of different greens. There. Let's leave that be for now because we have a little more to do. But now look at our gray cottage there. Let's go back and add a little more white. So I'm going to use the same brush. Just dry it really well, or get a new brush. Anybody questions about brushes? Everybody got something that's working for them? I'd love to see how things work for you, and so that we can suggest them to other people if I'm overlooking something. I'm just taking white now, just a little bit, and I'm going to just scumble it right over. So you can see how I'm just using a tiny bit and just kind of scumbling that white on. And you can see the gray through. And I just keep repeating this until I get it as bright as I like, or just brighter in some spots, maybe brighter in the front where the sun might be hitting it. But I start and do it in layers, and each time I do it, I evaluate it and see how I like the look. Okay, and like I said, sometimes I've got to swap it around and kind of work on it in different angles. And I like the way it looks like, because it does look stucco-y like that. These little cottages have a lot of texture to them. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm using, again, a little bit of a big brush, but if you're comfortable, just use a little one, and you could just get into these little nooks and crannies without worrying. I might switch over at some point to get the little edges and bits. Just to kind of say I want to get into the littler spots. Again, I do this, it's a little synthetic brush, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm wiping some of that white off. And this way I can kind of get into a little closer to the ground in the windows. And you can see I'm painting and I'm using my strokes, but I'm not using a lot of paint, and I'm not bearing down hard so that it all blends too well. Can build up the white still, but I don't have to do it by just covering it opaquely or with a lot of pressure. I'm going to go even up to this little bit of light here, this little backside of the chimney. Okay, there. While I'm at it, why don't I take a little bit of a lighter blue and get those front bits. I still want them darker than the cottage itself, but I don't want it that black. Let me grab a little blue and white. Maybe some of that ultramarine that's a little more periwinkly. And you can always see how I take my paint and I dry it off. I'd rather have not enough and go back than too much. Okay, I like this a lot over that dark. That is going to do the trick. It's like a nice little highlight. You can get some nice highlights over dark backgrounds. The ultramarine in a little white is working nice for that, but you could certainly use the phthalo or whatever color blue you are working with. Even a little bit of a purple if you like. Still dark. That one began a little too blackish. I'm going to keep going till I can get it not so you can see that black too much in the back. There, it just blends a little more. Okay. The windows, I do put a little bit of a blue highlight on. I actually used kind of a brighter blue on that. It's like a little reflection. Just as much, just that little dab. That's it. That's all you need for that. And again, this dries fast because we only use tiny bits. It dries pretty quick, and you can just go back now as much as you want. Get little bits of white, and you can get it really bright in spots if you want. You still you still have your gray showing in the background, but you are not going to lose that. But you can just make it as bright as you like. I'm going to do one more coat on the little fronts, and I'm not doing all the little bits like I just did. I'm sort of just hitting the high points. You Could even do a little down here if that it was looking a little too drastically different. I'm going to do a little white over that too. Because it's actually still white. It's just got the shadow, but it just separates. Okay, I like the way that looks. What do you guys think? Do you like the way that looks? It looks like stone, doesn't it? I think so. Okay. A thatch roof. I'm going to use a little bit of this ochre color. If you don't have that ochre color, just take a little white and yellow and maybe a teensy bit of brown. But I'm just going to kind of base coat it with that color to start, and then we'll go on top of it. And again, that might be better off with my little flat brush. I think I can tuck it into the little corners. Why it works better upside down, I do not know, but okay. Right across, these have this low-hanging roofs. And you can tell, like if you make a little mistake, say while it's still wet, you could just take a brush with clean water and move it. Get rid of it. I just kind of went a little too flat with that. Okay. There we are. And this will dry. The colors have been drying, paint has been drying pretty quickly tonight, which is good. I haven't had to take out my hairdryer, which is so annoying because of listening to the sound. But a hairdryer or a heat gun is handy to have if you are wanting to work in a lot of layers and don't want to wait for it to dry too much. Okay. If anyone has any questions, put them in the comments, or also you can message me. I'll watch the comments afterwards too. Guess where to get supplies and whatnot. If you need any help, just let me know. This gets a little bit darker around the edges. I'm going to try putting some brown on now. It's more of a burnt sienna color. If it's too wet and it doesn't take, then I just wait. But I'm going to take a little bit of that burnt sienna brown. So if you don't have a burnt sienna brown, you just take a regular brown and mix it with a little red and maybe a little white. You can get that color pretty easily. And I just like to have it along the edge. And you can see it's going to blend in. It's going to blend in a little too much, but it's a good start. It just keeps it from being all the same shade like we talked about. And I like a little bit across the very top of the roof line. Who's traveled to Ireland? Who's seen these cool little cottages? I know Nikki has, but I've been missing traveling. I sometimes go 2 times a year, and I, like everybody, have not been anywhere this last year, but I'm getting a little I don't want to say, Joan, I just kind of ready to go. I have a lot of family there. It's nice to keep up with them online, but it's nice to see them in person too. And I really miss my friends and my family there and the different way of life. It's a fabulous place to visit, even if you're not Irish. Okay, so I put it around the edge, and then I just started bringing it up here. It was blending so nicely. That's a good start there. I'm going to rinse that off because I think I want to go in with a little of the yellow and see if that shows up. You can see, even though I've painted this before, I'm still experimenting as I go. So a little bit of the yellow. Doesn't show up much, but it shows up a little. So throw a little bit of yellow in there. And you'll see what I mean when I say if you add a little white to a color, especially yellow, it's so transparent. Add a little white to it, it really will pop more. But now, because there's so much paint on there and wet, it's just not going to show up. So we're going to leave that go, and we are going to go back when it's dry a little bit. And you can still go back anytime you want and touch up any other things. If you find the paint's drying a little bit now and it's blending and you really would rather have it a little more white on top, you can hop in and do that. And we're going to shade a little bit still on this when it's dry. I'm going to go and just put my doorway in. Here you can use any kind of paint, or any color you want. They're so colorful. I usually go to orangey red, but teal blues, oranges, yellow doors, anything that you want. Yeah, you guys love Ireland too, Kathy. Pat, only 3 times, but we'll all be going again once it opens. I do book travel actually to Ireland through CIE, which is a fabulous way to go. The bus tours are so much fun. So I will have some brochures in once we are opened up and ready to book travel again. So I cannot wait. Nikki, you should make a calendar of your cottage pictures. That would be so cool. What I did last time I was, a while back, not last time I was there, is I went around and I took all kinds of photos of storefronts and pubs that were clearly last names. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to compile it like Donahue's Pub and O'Leary's hardware store. So I do have a small collection, but I thought that would be kind of fun if you could, print those up, and then people with that name, or if they have friends with that name, it'd be a cool gift. But I think you should definitely do Cottage calendar. That would be so cool. I didn't have many calendars this year to sell, so I'm always looking for calendars. Anywho, I want to do a little reddish sienna-ish door. So I'm just taking a little of that brown and a little of my red. Paint's been sitting out, so I tend to, when I'm doing details or towards the end of the painting, I need it to be flowing a little nicer, a little more like ink rather than heavy paint, heavy-bodied paint. And I want this door to be a little translucent because I like the way it looks when I can see through it. I think it needs a little orange. So I don't mind being able to see through it. So I'm going to just fill it in with this color, and I'm going to go back and tweak it afterwards. You can see this painting did look a little detailed, but it's really not. Wait till I show you how easy the little sheep are to do. And the flowers, they're so simple. So there, that's one coat, but it's going to need to be darkened up a little bit, and with some shading too. It's not going to take it now because it's too wet, but we'll just let it dry a little bit. I think I will take some black while I've got my tiny brush out, a little bit of water again, because so that I want to water it down a little bit for some details. And you can certainly just go back and just kind of give your square off your windows if you want. Just outline them in a little black. You can straighten up this little door jamb thing if you want to. Okay, we'll get a little tacky on here. So that's going to be on its way. So let's let that dry a little bit. We'll come back and add some details to that, certainly. And we're going to add a little shading. These came out a little darker and different than my painting originally, but I like it. How does it look on your end? Is it too dark? See, what happens is I look at it here and I'm okay with it. And then I look at it on the screen and these dark lines are popping out to me on the camera. So, and I don't do it so much here, but I'm going to just kind of soften that a little bit where those harsh lines are. So I'm just going to go on a little white, kind of wipe some off. And I just want it to be softer. You can see it, actually. I'm better off looking at it on the camera, really. I just want to soften. I don't want them that bright. And it's going to just be a little more pleasing to me. My own taste, so that's what you got to do is like, what do I like the look of? I'm the one who's going to be looking at it, so I want it to look pleasing to me. Everybody having fun? Anybody paint the tree of life with me the other day? So much fun. And so many people are, look through the page and see there's a post I put up so people could share their paintings. And there's so many paintings there and they are so cool. Kids and families and everybody did them all different ways. It's the tree of life and it had like little spirally flowers or things, whatnot on it. People did them all different ways. I had one on there, go look. She did it. She turned the trunk kind of into Beetlejuice. Oh my God, it was so fun. So cool. You have to go take a look. That is a great painting. You can do it so many different ways. I've lost a little of my blue, which I really kind of like on those bits. So I'm just going to blue it up a little bit. And I can still see those lines there, though, but not here as much. It looks very smooth here. Probably shouldn't be looking at it in the video, but I'm going to just soften it a little more. Yeah, that does it. Okay. All right. I'm going to start adding our little sheep, and I'm going to maybe add a little brightness here in the end, but let's put our flowery bits in our sheep. Okay, so the sheep are nothing but tiny little black blobs to begin with. And since I hate to use black a lot, I'm going to take the black and a little blue. So it's going to be just a dark, dark gray color. And really, they are nothing but little blobs. I'll show you closer. Oh, I'm going to go up to my light. So see, it's just little blobs. They are two shapes. They're round if they're facing you or if their bum is facing you, and then they're just oval if they're lying down or if they're standing. As many or as few as you want. They are a little bit in the distance, so they would be smaller back here. If you wanted to really go crazy and make lots of sheep, you could make the same kind of sheep here, only bigger. And if you want to get a little more of a tutorial, just look at that video I did today. They're getting a little lost in the dark here, but you know what? When we pop on the white, they're going to pop right out. And actually, you know, we can put their little legs in at the same time. So let's just get our circles and our ovals. I had some on my original over on the right here, but I think we have a little bit different size canvas. So I'm going to skip those guys. And just a little bit. You could go, I stopped here. You can go all the way out if you want. You can make them, you know, when I say circle and ovals, they're pretty rough. They're not by any means perfect. And then for their little legs, they're just little lines. If they're standing and facing us front or away, they just get 2 little legs. And if they have, you know, they can have some, you can always put 4. No one's going to look at them and say, oh, this guy's not right. He looks like a little bit like a jellyfish there. But just get the little legs in for now. And let that dry, and we're going to put their little white bits on them. And I even have the little blue on them too. Like if you ever noticed when you're in Ireland, the sheep are everywhere. And you might see the sheep with these little spots on their butts, like bright pink or bright blue. And that is so the farmers, because they're all out roaming, you know, that's so the farmer knows which ones are his. So sometimes in the paintings, I throw little splotches of color on their behinds. It's kind of cute. So let me see, Donna. I know, Donna, it is. I can do a better job with the talking and painting now with this setup because the camera is here and your comments are right in front of me. So I think this works out pretty well. But yeah, but take your time, you know, and I love to hear things on your end. But if you're concentrating, certainly go right ahead. And Kathy, I'm so glad. Isn't the best thing I hear when I'm at paint nights and when I'm painting with you guys is people who used to paint or painted once and someone said they weren't an artist and they never painted again. And how sad is that? Because I don't care what my painting looks like when I'm done. If I had fun painting it, then that's the important thing. And if you like not crazy about your painting when you finish, if you kind of set it aside and look at it in like 3 days or even the next day, you'd be surprised. It really looks pretty cool. And I love when people get back to painting and they're out buying their supplies. And I think it's so cool. I just love it. So I'm glad you're back to painting too. Cool. Okay. So these little guys dried in second. I'm just going to take some white. I like to use the little detail brush for these guys. And I'm just, see, I'm making little squiggly strokes on them. And actually, look at he got a little bit, it's hard to tell, but I made a little blob on him. So I'm just going to take the paint, water on the brush and clean him up. And it's a little soon, and the undercolor is mixing with it, but I like that. I don't mind. It gives them a little bit of a shadow. And again, you can just go back over them if you need to and brighten them up. But it's nice to have a little shadow on them. These guys are a little bit, a little more black. But see this little guy that I just did right here? By putting that on when it was a little wet, it created a shadow that I don't have to put in later. So it's not a bad thing. And again, you can just go back when you need to. That guy was, see, I didn't wipe my brush off and he got very gray, but that's all right. I'm just using little squiggly strokes. I'm going out over the black that I put on already. So it's kind of over the black and just kind of bumpy. Just think of a little sheep in his little coat and how fuzzy and he would be. Okay, so that's a good start. We're going to let him dry a little bit. We'll pop on a little bit in some spots, some bright white, and then maybe the little blue bits if you wanted to, or a colored bit. Nikki, yeah, you were my regular too. We had so much fun. I was at the gas bar the other day looking at my poor little room all dark. Can't wait to get back out and paint. But I started doing these virtual paint nights. I haven't done that many of them, but it's been kind of fun. I'm having fun. I don't have to pack all my gear up. I just go into my basement and turn on the camera. So I do miss it, though. I miss people. And this way, it's nice when you're chit-chatting with me because it's almost like being there. And it was, you know, everyone was in for so long. You'd think it would be a time to really start lots of projects. And I don't know, with just the whole vibe, it was hard to almost jump in and be creative. So I'm glad I'm sort of getting back into a few things, too. All right, now let's go back to our little roof a little bit. That actually, just the way it is, looks pretty good. But I want to give it some texture so it looks a little more like thatch. And again, you can use a round brush or you can use your flat. I use it like flat and I use it on the edge. And I just want to get a little bit of other shades in there. So I'm taking my colors are all mixed up. I'm almost just going into the yellow that's already mixed with a little white. And again, until I put it on the painting, I don't know really if it's going to do what I want it to. But yeah, that gives it a little bit. So if we take the brush and sort of use it sometimes on the chisel edge, can you see how you start getting a thatch look there? It kind of looks a little bit like the thatched roofs. You can go back into the original color and do it. You can do a little of the brown. It almost by itself has sort of worked. I don't mind that at all the way it is. I might add a little more yellow, but if it might not need it, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. It's looking a little like the thatched roof, so I'm just going to kind of go with it. And you can see the yellow is so transparent on there, right? But when I mix it with a little white, it pops right out. It's much brighter. So just get a little texture in there, some lights and darks, and leave it when you think you're ready. I think that looks okay. I don't even go in and put any little crosshairs in the windows. You could do that too if you wanted to. Actually, let's try it. I didn't on my painting, but it might be kind of fun. These windows are a little bigger than my original, so I'm just taking a little bit of white, and again, because it's detailed, I just add a little water. We're just going to do a little bit of a, one of those deals. And now I'm going to go back to my door. I had it really orangey there on my other painting. I kind of liked it. So let's just rub a little, paint a little orange in there. Take a little bit of red. I like the brightness of the red. I'm just sort of streaking it in there. And I want it to be a little darker around the edge. I don't know if the brown itself is going to do it. I'm just kind of getting the teeniest bit of black in there too. Because it would be darker here. It would be darker across the top. Right, so it just shows a little bit of shadow there. You can almost have a little bit of a shadow brought down in case there's like a little window or something there. So that's that. Let's go plop a little bit of bright white on our sheep. And they are teensy, but it would be fun to maybe have some bigger ones. So really, go crazy, add some, show me the pictures later. I will make a post again for this painting, and everybody can go on and add their pictures. If you need a critique or you would like one, you can put it there, or you could send it to me. I would be happy to, give you some pointers if you think you need them. Okay, did you guys already set your clocks different? We have it coming up, I think, this weekend, but that's okay. Pop in, see what we're doing, and you can always watch the video anytime later. And like I said, you can even stop and start it, which makes it kind of cool. But please join us, and any questions or comments, put them here, and we're glad that you're here. Better late than never, right? Oh, Katie, you didn't read your list of supplies. Oh, I'll show you the colors and everything, and send me your email, and I will just make sure you get those, the supplies, but especially the tracer if you need it. It usually when you sign up, it sends an automatic email out, but sometimes it might go to spam or might get mixed up. But always feel free to reach out to me, and I will make sure you get it. Okay, we need to put little faces on them, which are nothing more, again, but little black ovals. So I'm just taking a little black, and they're just, you can put them almost anywhere. So if you've got a little sheep that's facing forward, there you go. He's got his little face, and I throw on a few little ears there. You could put them, they could be looking any which way. You could put them like looking like that. You could put them, I'm going to put this one looking this way because it's kind of busy over here with the other guy. You can put little ears if there's room. This guy could be facing forward and his ears like that. They're really fun to play around with. We're going to make this guy who was an oval one, a really fluffy, chubby one facing forward because he's kind of cute that way. And this guy, the same thing. I'm going to throw this up to the camera in a second so you can see. Oh, he's got like rabbit ears, this poor guy. Okay. This guy's going to go this way. They start out one way and then they end up another way, so it doesn't really matter. If you lose the legs, you can always go and put them in a little more. Little details like that too. Remember, if you're more comfortable, you can use a paint marker. I usually use a fine brush and I water the paint down, but you can even use a Sharpie if you wanted to. I love the Posca paint markers because they are like paint. They're a little bit heavier bodied, and they're so cool. They come in all colors, and they come in a fine point and then this medium point. I think I perhaps mentioned paint marker once, and Facebook was listening because now I get all these little paint marker things popping up. And there was another company that I saw, and I, of course, had to run and buy them, a box of them. I have not opened them yet, but they're supposed to be some pretty cool paint markers. So I really love the paint markers. You could use, if you paint the rocks, you could paint them, do all the detail with the markers. You can sign your name. Katie, I'll grab your email from there, and I will send you, when we get off, the list, and just keep in touch. Let me know if you don't get it. Send me a direct message on Facebook, and I'll make sure you do. And I did. You can see some of the colors, but they're a disaster now. You can do a lot with just your primaries. I added a few extras, but they're certainly easy to mix. You want to, I have a dark phthalo green here. You can use whatever green you have. A yellow. I have an ultramarine and a phthalo, whichever you have, you can use. Orange, you can certainly mix your red and yellow. Purple, we mix with the blue and red. And you need a white and a black. I have this goldy ochre color, which I really like. I use that a lot. But if you didn't have it, you could mix it up with a little brown in your yellow and a little white, maybe a tad of red. And it doesn't have to be the exact same, but I do give you all those things in the list there. So, okay, so our little sheep are there. Can you see their kind of little personality? Some have rabbit ears and some have regular, normal sheep ears. Down here is where we put those poppies in, and then I kind of make them going up here as a little, they trail off smaller. Super easy. And let me show you. They're really just blobs. They're blobs of red, and then I blob a little orange, and then little black centers. I almost hesitate to use a little detail brush like this because you could really get too detailed. You could almost use what's comfortable, but sometimes I just take a big brush like this, scraggly brush, and try it. So let's play around. We'll see what we can make with these. They're just blobs. They're sort of ovally blobs, but really they're not anything fancy. They're bigger in the front here. Back here, we'll use a smaller brush because they're just dabs. And they might be kind of dark on the background. And so we're going to let them dry, and we're going to put a little more paint on, and we're going to put a little orange on. And you can put as many as you want. Some can almost be like their little petals. Just become the flower. And some are just little half pieces peeking through. So the faster you go, the more random they'll be, and the better off, because you don't have time to try to make them into a pattern and to be perfect. So just get what you can in there. Some could be touching each other. Really, no rhyme or reason. And then I kind of head up towards this little kind of curve up here a little bit, and then we're going to put the brush down and use a smaller one from up there. And luckily the paint's been drying pretty quick, and so we can come back and do those a little brighter in a minute. You can see how the paint's going to sink into that dark and just get a little darker. So again, we're taking the same color, and these are just random. I don't even stop to worry about them. Just kind of make little, and they're not even perfectly round shapes. Some of them are just little dabs. And they I almost went like up to the door with them. So I'm going to just get them small back here. Just remember, in proportion to our little sheep, they would even be smaller than this. And back there, I did some orange ones. Kind of just going to throw those in. I don't know if I love this orange. It's really not a primary orange, although it's popping in nicely there because it is a little on the peachy side, so it's a primary orange with a little white, I'd say. That's probably why they're showing up so nice, though, too. A primary orange might blend too much in the background. Yeah, I'm even thinking about it too much. I don't want them to be perfect. I want to just kind of go along like that. I have some back here by themselves, a little bit of like orange, kind of could almost be like a red one, but it's just really all translucent or whatever. So throw some in with just a little orange here and there back here. And I'm going to show you, I have taken a lot of the paint off the brush, and it's very light, but I kind of like when you put it on the canvas. Can you see how it's pretty dry? You can see the canvas through, but you can see the texture of the canvas, which is kind of nice for some bits. Again, you'd go back maybe and brighten some up, but we'll just put some in there just to make it different. We have a little bit of, I have a little purple and a little blue in there too, just to mix it up a little bit. So let's let that dry a minute, and then we can pop on a brighter red and the orange on top. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to kind of look and see what I think it might need. I would appreciate any thoughts. What do you guys think? Do we need to do anything more in the background or with the cottage? We do need to put our grasses up over here a little bit. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take our, a flat brush or your round, whatever you're comfortable with, mixing up a little bit of the green. And so I want to get it so it's not, because it wouldn't have grown perfectly like this. It's kind of going to be a little messier than that. And so I just want to make it come up over here and there. It's a little minty green there because we're using that light green on top of the white. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to kind of get it in some better tones. I think I'm going to come back with some of the dark too. So while I'm at it, this is when I always go back and, into that little quilt kind of a thing and just add more colors here and there. If it looks like there's too dark in one spot, I'll throw a little light in. And just play with some of the colors that are on there. Back into this light area just to get it a little bit more like a little grassy kind of a look. You would really see the grasses down here, not so much back here, but it is nice to have a little texture back there. I'm really working with just bits of the colors I've mixed here. I put it on. If it looks good, it works, I do it. If it doesn't, I switch over. I kept this pretty dark. I was almost going to say you could put some little bits down here if you felt like you wanted to. That's fine. I had it pretty dark, but feel free to do whatever you like because it's your painting. Katie, I don't spray it if I'm doing a ceramic piece or a piece, something that's going to hang outdoors, but my canvases, I never put anything on them, but you're welcome to. You might want to use a matte or a satin spray on something like this because you don't want the glare that you might get for something glossy, but really it's your own taste. So try it me on the edge and see how the finish looks to you. I've never really done much. If I'm doing an oil painting and once it's good and dry, I put like a varnish on it, but I don't do much with my acrylics. All right, try one of those wall. Oh, like a stone wall, Lena, maybe? Is that what you're thinking? One of the stone walls? Those are kind of cool. I don't know if I could do it now because it's behind and you can almost get the impression of that with the dark there, but you could almost make this kind of like, I don't know if you can do much with the flowers in front, but you could, if there's a lot of dark there, although we're going to go over some of that, you could almost take one of your light gray, say, and just kind of put in some little things that could be stones. I love the stone walls. But I do have a couple other colors, so I'm going to show you now that will fill in some of those bits. We're going to go into make a purple again. So to make the purple, we're just going to go back into like a blue and a red. It is not going to show up much on that dark background. That's why we add a little white. I think I need a little bit more blue. That's really a pinky, orchidy color, but again, doesn't really matter, whatever color you like. I didn't make them round. I sort of just did little things like this. That's not really showing up much, but I want to do some that are subtle. Honestly, they're really not, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just making little squig, like little shapes, little bits of the color. Just to give it something different, fill in some of the dark. I'm not going on top of really so much the red. I'm kind of just going around and filling in any little dark bits. And I'll go back now and make some of those a little lighter. I'm getting a little glare here myself, but okay, so you can see some are dark and some are light. So that's what's nice about not doing them all the same. Did them this way, you don't really see them. You can go over some of them with the light. You can go beside some of them, and you're going to have a lot of different shades of that purple. Okay, some can be up here. And then I did some blue, and I don't know why. There's hardly any, and I think I stopped because you couldn't really see them. But I don't know. I kind of like it. This is going to be a place where you could go and add. You could do little white daisies. I'll show you how to do those. That might be fun. I put a little bit. I don't know why I had some little blue bits in there too. Kind of brings the color of the sky down, which is kind of nice. They don't really. You don't see them that much. But if you wanted to, I'll show you how to make little daisy flowers, which are kind of quick and easy. Hi, Melinda. You're welcome. I don't know how I even got the caption on, but I'm glad it's there. This virtual stuff's all new to me, so any pointers you have, I would love it. Okay, they're not in the original, but I want to show you because it's fun. I thinned down my paint, and this is really, I've got icky water here. Let me get a little cleaner water. So I'm going to thin down a little paint, and I'm going to show you, what can I show you on that you can actually see? I don't know if you can see on this little bit of dark, but I just make little white flowers. You can hardly see that, and put a little center. I'll do it on here if you can see it. And when I do a little flower like that, I know they're little and it doesn't matter, but always go from the outside and work in, because you can just press and pull. I'll pull it up. If you go and you can just press and pull in, you got a better shaped petal. I'm working at a weird angle here, but see how you can, and then I would scatter some in, but not all have to be a whole flower. Then you could just do, just a little bit peeking out here and there. And just randomly press and pull in. And again, just make some peeking. I kind of like those in there. It brightens up this little area down here. And there, something you could practice just on something else. Here's a little dark area that's dried. So you can see I just sort of press and pull and just go right towards the center all the way around. When you press and you pull in, you get a petal shape. And then I would just take a little yellow and pop it in the middle. Actually, you know what's a good idea? Because the background's so dark, make the middle already, but make it white. And then when you pop your yellow in, it will show up. If you didn't, it would blend right into that dark background. So if you want to, throw a few little guys in. And up here, you wouldn't see them, so we just do them as little white dots. Throw some little purple dots in there too, if you would like. I'd love some suggestions. I have to schedule some more paint nights. This was I have one at the end of the month of that cute little whimsical lamb that's adorable. We're going to do it on a Sunday afternoon, and it's something you might want to do with the kids. So I'm going to do that next, and then I'll start scheduling some Eastery, springy paintings. If you look at my Facebook page and go under photos and under Paint Night Paintings. There's an album called Paint Night Paintings. I kind of have most of all of my paintings there. So why don't you take a look and give me some suggestions. If there's something there you want to do, I could, I can schedule that. So please, or if you have any ideas or photographs or something you might want to do, just let me know. Okay, let's go in and pop in some little yellow centers, and then we'll brighten up the red flowers. This is kind of fun. It's combining a landscape, which we've got mountains and sky and grasses and all sorts of things. We've got the detail of the cottage, and now we have a little bit of a floral thrown in. Busy painting, but it's fun. And it's good for March, but you can leave it up anytime. Katie, this is an 11 by 14. I used to always do the big 16 by 20s, but they're enormous, and who has room for all of those paintings? So I started doing, I'm pretty sure, is it 11 by 14? Let me measure, because it was a different size than my original there. So I'm wondering if I had a different size, because the cottage is sitting a little different. No, 11 by 14. It's a nicer size. 8 by 10s are fun, but they're a little small. But what I like about this size is you can put it up, keep it up for March, and then I do all the same sizes. So when we do a spring painting or an Easter painting, you could pop it up in the same spot, and you can just change them out. So 16 by 20s are fun, but they're too big for me to find a place to put. I just bought, they're teensy, and it'd be fun to do a class. They're little tiny, little square canvases. They're probably 3 inches by 3 inches or 4 by 4. At Michael's in a little pack, and they come in black and they come in white. And I like to paint on a dark background sometimes. Actually, when I plein air paint, I prime all my canvases with red, and I paint on top of a red canvas, which is really cool. But I thought these would be fun to paint, and they have little easels you could set them on. Wouldn't they be cute, like with for Mother's Day, a little mom quote or a little something, or you could personalize them. But they're little, so people would have a place for them. You could give them as a gift, and it wouldn't be like, all right, where's this dust collector gonna go now? So I'll try to share those if I remember. Remind me of the things I mentioned because sometimes I don't remember. So I'm just gonna pop a little bit of red on top of some of these, because you can see that red sunk right into that dark background. But that's all right, because I wanted it dark back there so that these would pop out once they get their highlights. And if you think you want a few more, you can add them in as you go. Oh, I thought so, Lena. I was thinking our Irish Mother's Day was coming up. Thank you for mentioning that. I usually post some things on my other page. If you want to follow my Irish page, it's Tinker's Cart. This one is Tinker's Cart Art. But Tinker's Cart, you're welcome to follow too. And we always post some fun things on there as well. All right, so I might go just with my little brush to do some orange highlights. So I'm just going to put, that's a little bit much, but just kind of on some of them, you can do a little bit of orange. I'm really just blobbing them. They're far away. They're just a little bit of image of like a poppy. And once we put the black centers in, then they really look like poppies. But while I have that orange out, I put some here before. I'm going to go back now and leave some of it dull and then brighten up some. And even if you have a dull one and just add a little highlight on top, it's nice to have that little bit of orange in the background. And it's tiny. It's not a whole lot, but a little subtle orange in the background and then a little blob of orange on top. And can you see how I'm really working sort of randomly and not really carefully? It comes out looking like maybe I worked carefully, but I'm having fun with it. If I was here doing precise little flowers and struggling away, it would not bring me any joy. And I just love to have fun painting. I'll share some of my plein air stuff on the page someday. Actually, I do have another place if you want to look. I have all my design work and my illustrations on a website called Cheryl Hughes Designs. And you can see my plein air work there, my oil paintings and my illustrations and all kinds of fun, goofy stuff if you want to take a look. I haven't had time to keep it up. I do put my new work up there, but juggling the retail store and then the painting is a full-time job and more. So I have kind of not concentrated on my illustration page. But take a look. I'd love to see what you think of it. It's Cheryl Hughes Designs, just like that, all one word. Okay. Let's see. Let's put some black centers and then they become poppies. How long have we been at this? An hour and a half. That's not bad, right? To do all this in an hour and a half. And a little trick. If you want to, you can paint your little centers in. I did do them kind of roughly, but if you wanted to, you could also just take the back end of your brush and pop them in that way. You get nice little circles. They look a little bit too perfect for me, so I am going to just go and daub them in every which way. But if you're making any kind of flowers and you need a nice little center, or if you're painting anything and you want polka dots on it. Anybody see my little leprechaun I painted the other day, the little wooden one? I had some blank wood here for a while, and I thought, let me put something on it. And I offered them as kits with the paints and all the, the brushes. My kits, when I sell the kits, I do like wooden cutouts or ceramics, and I sell the kits. It includes everything. It comes with a little palette and a little paper cup and a paper towel and your brushes and all your colors and little cups and whatever you need. And it's kind of fun because you can just like take it on the go or have a little paint activity with the kids. And I did the little, it came out cute. I didn't really know what to expect. I was just kind of fooling around with them. The little leprechaun was kind of cute. And of course now I had like a dozen sets, 11 sets. And of course everybody wanted them. I think I'll order a few more. And I'm going to have some really fun little Eastery ones. I don't know why I'm putting a doorknob on there, but I am. So I just posted some pictures of the wooden cutouts and we'll get some of those painted up again. And sometimes if it needs it, I will do like a little video or time lapse, and I have a QR code on the kit. So there'll be a little bit of instructions, a QR code. You can go in and it'll take you right to watch the painting of it. Melinda, okay, saw that. Okay, so again, looking at it on the camera, this looks really dark to me. Looking at it in person, it doesn't seem so bad, but so up close, it's not bad. I think I'm going to leave it and then look at it tomorrow. That's the best thing. Leave it and look at it tomorrow, or hold it in the mirror and take your time and see if it needs anything. And more often than not, you're going to love it the way it is. I would generally sign my name, but you can also use a Sharpie or you can use the paint marker. It's kind of hard. I usually go right lower corner. Here you've got a lot of dark, so I would use a white. So you would kind of just, for your name, you can do initials, name. I have a lot of people at paint nights. They were so funny. They would have like a particular little symbol or a particular way to do their name, and then they wanted to remember, so they'd take a picture of it, and then they'd put their phone out, and then they would get their name just like it was on the last piece. So let me, I would just kind of go along the bottom and do it. And I'm working kind of in wet paint here, so I really should wait till it dries, but too impatient. So we'll just make it so that I could go over it. But anyway, I just wanted to show you the last little finishing touch. So what do you think? Has anybody finished theirs as well, following along, or you're going to watch some more later? How are you all doing? Having a good time? Have any questions anymore? Because I'm going to leave you to it if you don't need anything else, but I'm here to answer questions, and I do keep up with the posts and everything, so I'll keep my eye on them and look for some suggestions and whatnot if you have any ideas for what you want to do next. All right, guys. We have a lot watching and from all over, and that was exciting. So happy Tuesday night, and I hope everyone has a great week. Yeah, Lena, and when you're watching it later and you have any questions, send me a message. I usually answer them right away. So you're welcome, Karen. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you here. Nice to see I think my new platform is going to work out well here. It's a little easier. You're welcome, Lena. Good to see you here too. Okay. I am going to call it a night. We had a lot of fun today. We did the sheep painting. Oh, I was going to show you that. Let me show it to you real quick. And the other cottage. See, I would forget. All right. So this is the little one we did today real quick. Actually, look at this is easier. Aren't they cute? Like they're right up close, right in your face. So there they are in full living color compared to the little dots we have in the background. So there's a quick little tutorial on the page that I did this afternoon on these. And this is the cottage that Nikki painted, I think. And I have a lot of cottage paintings. So this one is more like a little patchwork quilt, actually. So you could do this very easily, too, with the same tracing, really. Place your cottage in the middle. If you wanted it facing this way, just turn your tracing over. And instead of mountains, just make your horizon line across here and divide it up into little patches. And it could be like a little patchwork quilt. You've got your sheep that are kind of in between the sizes, so they're a little bigger here, but you can see they're blue-gray underneath, popped on some white, just dabbed on for flowers. Can you see how it looks detailed from afar, but when you get close, it's pretty simple. The flowers are just kind of dabbed on. The trees are just triangular shapes in a dark green-black, and when it's dry, I daub on just some little branches. And it really helps, like for these guys, is adding these little shadows under them. Really, just see how it makes them sit right on the ground. They're not floating up in the air just because of a little black, dark green shadow. So anyways, thank you for the kind words. Thanks, Penny. I'm trying. I do love it. And I'd love to be in person with you. But hey, we'll do it this way if we have to right now, right? Okay. Thanks, Susan. And what's the site you mentioned? Oh, Cheryl Hughes Designs. Hey, George. George is here. George is my friend from George, before first grade, what? I still have my friends from first grade. So cool. George, did you paint tonight? We're going to have to get you out painting soon. You can ride your motorcycle to our painting sites. Okay. I'm really going to go now because I don't want to keep you all night. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.